Okay, everyone, welcome to the CFMC PR and Evaluation Workshop for our grantees. We're just so excited to have you with us and to once again say congratulations on your grant. We so appreciate all you do. You're doing extraordinary work. And it means a great deal to our community as a whole and to us personally to be able to support you with that. Many of you have been through this with us, with this session in previous years for your, and not a ton has changed. So I'm going to hit some of the high marks, do some reminders. I encourage anyone to either jump in with questions if you have questions, or jump in with ideas and suggestions on things that have worked for you. I want this definitely to be a lot of fun. So a little housekeeping before we get into the big stuff. For many of you, you have heard me say this many years, and you would think after all this time I would not have this slide as part of this presentation, but I continue to need this slide as part of the presentation. So a little bit of housekeeping. Our name is Community Foundation of Middlesex County. In announcements, shout outs, anything, if you're using the logo, you can also refer to us as Community Foundation or CFMC, or once you've given the full name, you can then because we know it's a long name, you can then shorten it to Community Foundation or CFMC. However, we are not the Middlesex Community Foundation, we are not the Middlesex Foundation, and we are not the foundation. So we do ask, particularly in shout outs that are PR announcements or marketing materials or whatnot, that you do list our name in its correct order, because if other people find it interesting and want to learn more, it definitely makes it easier for them to do so. And I can tell you there are other Middlesex counties and other foundations affiliated with either Middlesex County or some of our town names around the nation, because periodically we get emails for that group, for those as well. So it does sort of help a little with the confusion. Okay, so when and how to use that. Most of you, as I said, have in previous years received a grant, and so you've done a great job. Thank you so much. If you're new to us, I do want to encourage you, it's coming up in just a few slides. We do have a grantee PR kit available on our website that gives ways to use the name and refers and gives some ideas on when to use the logo, etc. But if you're speaking about a grant, it's very simple that your grant funding is provided by the community foundation or provided in part or funded in part by the community foundation. Your letter that you received may have listed one or more funds that made your grant possible. Why do we do that? Well, we do that for a number of reasons. First of all, we do it to help explain all of the funds that are involved in our competitive grant making process. We are incredibly thankful and appreciative of the donors that have established the funds that help us create a pool of money that is utilized during our competitive grant making process. So when we tell you who the names of those funds, it's a great way to thank those individuals, families, businesses, groups, both in your thank you notes that come to us to be distributed out to them. And we appreciate that. Thank you. We do take care of that. But also publicly to let people know that, the James family established a fund at the Community Foundation, and it was part of a grant that we received. They may be on social media. They see that. It's a wonderful, warm thank you, warm feeling thank you to them. But it also helps others know that different families and groups and funds are supporting your organization. Now, some of you may have received, say, a letter that lists 3 or 4 or 5 funds, because we have a lot of funds that are involved in the process and they all have different amounts available, and we try to spread the joy. You do not necessarily need to list excuse me, every single fund, you are welcome to, particularly if we have seen that happen on a Facebook post. That is fabulous. We actually screenshot that and we send it to the representatives of each one of those funds, because sometimes they're not on social media. It's a great shout out, but you don't necessarily have to do it in every single thing, or in bulk like that. We appreciate it when it happens, but it's not a requirement, but it is appreciated. And I do want you to know that when we see that happen, or even if it's just if you had one fund made that made your grant possible, we often, particularly on social media, will screen clip those and we forward them on to the donors as well, so that they know their generosity is greatly appreciated. As I mentioned, we do put together a grantee communications kit. We will be there. The version is out there that we had posted for the cycles last year. We're going to be doing some small updates to it, but it still is very standard and has a lot of good suggestions. But we're seeing a lot of great new ideas coming through from our grantees. So we will be doing some updates, but it's a good starting place. It is on our website. And if you go to the nonprofit resources and select marketing your grant, you will see it on that page. The other thing that you will find there is a link to download the CFMC logo to utilize with your materials or your shout outs and your acknowledgements. And then we started this during our 25th anniversary year. There are many ways that we ask for stories, videos, ideas, quotes, photos. But if you ever just have a little snippet you want to share, you're more than welcome to send an email directly to Mary or to myself. We continue to use those in a variety of ways throughout the year when we're sending thank yous and when we're putting together little video highlights for our donors and our board and committees. We also have a link on the website that provides a very simple share feature for if it's like just a really quick quote you want to send and you're not at a place to get to the email. And then obviously we'll go into that a little bit later. There's a much more in-depth way to do it on your evaluation. But the communications kit will outline ways to utilize the logo, which we're going to get into in just a second here, as well as thanking, ways to say thank you. There's some templates if you do a lot of advocacy and you want to make it known to your legislators that you are receiving funding from a variety of places, of how to draft that. So let's talk about the logo. The main item that you see here in the screen is our main logo has both our acronym, our name, and our tagline. That is the primary logo, and that is the one that is our preferred logo for use whenever you need to use our logo. However, if where you need to use the logo, if the logo is going to get so small that you you can still read our name and our acronym, but you cannot read the bottom tagline, philanthropy, leadership, legacy, then we have a version without that, and we can send that to you because we don't want the logo used in such a way that the bottom piece is illegible. And that's often happens if people are putting together flyers, whether they're virtual flyers that you're posting, say, on a website or on social media, or a flyer that you're actually having to print where you've got a lot of funders and you don't have a lot of space to make logos that are really big. So that's the case when we have a slightly smaller version or a version without the bottom tagline. You can use just our acronym if somewhere nearby, whether it's in text or a list of funders or whatever, our full name with the acronym in parentheses is used to make the connection. Our acronym logo, that circle, is becoming more and more well-known in the community, which has been a goal of ours to have that be a recognizable branding piece of the Community Foundation. But it still is, as a standalone, if it's all by itself, a lot of people don't know what that means. So if you have a small space for a logo and you'll have a lot of text, you can utilize that circle piece of our logo as long as our name is mentioned in full in writing very nearby. Oh, and I don't know if I said this at the top, so I'm going to reiterate this right now. Jump in at any time if you have questions, if something isn't clear. You can use the chat. You can wave wildly at the screen. Abby's helping me keep an eye on it, on everything. You can use the hand raise icon, any of those. So I definitely do not need to be the only one doing the talking here. So if there are questions or comments or clarifications or suggestions, please jump in. Sometimes there may be a special logo that needs to be used for a grant. One of the primary ones is the GSB logo in conjunction with ours. As we mentioned several years ago, we are honored that GSB, otherwise known as Guilford Savings Bank, reached out to 4 community foundations that serve their footprint and said, you know the community and you have these great processes in place to do grant making, and we want to utilize that for our grant making. And so they actually have turned their grant making over to those 4 community foundations. So whenever there are, whenever we have possible applications in our regular competitive cycles that meet their footprint, and we know fall within those things they like to invest in, that's where one of the funds you see listed, for some of you, may say the Guilford Savings Bank or the GSB fund. One of our goals is to ensure that the community knows that GSB continues to invest in the community, even though they have chosen not to do the grant making directly through their offices, but instead partner with their community foundations. That's why we have a special logo. So when you get your agreement letter and it listed all of those funds, if one of them was the GSB fund, we do ask, doesn't have to be on everything, but we do ask that if you're acknowledging that, you do use this GSB CFMC single logo file, which is available on our website, because it does help let the community know that GSB is supporting nonprofits that serve our community, is investing in our community, and is partnering with the Community Foundation to make that possible.
Thayer,
Yes.
We just had a question come through. Will you let the organizations know if the funds supporting them require the use of the special logos?
Yes, and that's a really good question. So for the most part, across the board, the CFMC logo is the primary logo to use. If you are a Fund for Women and Girls grantee, if the Fund for Women and Girls is your primary funder, we will let you know to that question and can make available the Sarah A. Rosenbaum Fund for Women and Girls piece of our logo that you see here. So it's always the Community Foundation, but there's certain funds that get mentioned underneath. So we will reach out to you, or if you have a question, if you notice. So I will tell you, most of the funds in your grant agreements don't have special logos that we've created. The ones that do tend to be our partnership with GSB. If you have if most or all of your funding came from the Fund for Women and Girls, the Killingworth Community Fund, we have a logo for that. That's tied to ours. So we will reach out to you, or you can reach out to us and say, here, I know we had several funds. Do any of them need a special logo? For the most part, our logo is the logo to be used, but periodically we do appreciate it on some of your materials or your thank yous. When you're acknowledging certain funds that have committees that are working diligently to try to support the community. So. Anything else on the use of the logos while we're here? If not, you're always welcome to, us. We'll answer questions all the time, so you can always send questions through. Okay. So the things that help us thank the community and let them know the impact that they're making are the thank yous that you do, or the stories that you send, or the videos. So, for example, we just love this. And so we keep using this photo over and over again, because this actually, if you were able to see one of our offices, this continues to hang on the wall in one of our offices. We love thank yous, and it could be a thank you card. It could be a story. Sometimes it's a photo. Sometimes it's a video. We love ways to say thank you to the community and to the donors, that whether it's the donor that established the fund or the donors that actually continue to contribute to funds to make an impact. So this is why we ask you to help us say thank you, because you're the ones doing the programs. You're the one that can tell us the story. And we gather these through your stories, through your photos, through your thank you cards. But we also, and we do continue to work to have site visits whenever possible. Sometimes that's in person. As we all know, the pandemic sort of slowed that down. We're trying to pick that up a little bit more. But we also started during the pandemic doing some virtual site visits. And sometimes that was like getting a sneak peek or having a quick 10-minute chat. And we're happy to schedule those, because it's a great way to see how things are going. And then as we get later into this, we'll talk about the evaluation narrative, because that's another way to tell us a story, as well as to explain how the grant funding continues to make an impact, so we can share that. We use your stories and photos. I'm hoping, as you know, because you all got the announcements, you get our e-announcements. So hopefully you're getting our e-newsletters, etc. We use them in our email updates. We love to visualize. Everything's on visual. You know, everybody's into the visual these days, which is great. We use them on social media. Not only do we watch for your posts on social media and we reshare them. We have another one that we're working on right now that just got posted, but we'll also do shout outs separately saying, you know, this is happening, or this is how grant funds are used. We send letters to our donors and our fund representatives. We use your photos and your quotes to help enhance those letters to let donors and fund representatives know the impact they're making. Our board meets 6 times a year, and during each of those meetings, we give them an update on some of the grants that we've gotten feedback on, or stories or photos that have come through, or videos, as well as our annual report to the community and our website. Now, here is a really big update on the website right now. We are currently in the process of building a new website framework. We're doing a lot of enhancements. We're doing a lot of updates, which is giving us an opportunity to look at all of the pages that live on our website. And believe me, we have a really big website with all of the different things that are involved in it. So we're going back through our photo libraries right now and our video libraries that have been sent to us to look for those just, you know, really great or heartwarming or informative things that you have sent us over the years, so that as we're getting ready to launch our refreshed website, it'll still be the same URL, but it's going to have a whole new look to it. We can populate it with more recent photos and video clips. So this is a great opportunity, if you want to help us out, to make sure that we have really fun, great stuff to choose from to put on there. We are also working on the next report to the community, which is our annual report. And as you know from looking at past versions of that, we love to populate that with lots of photos, messages from your social media, etc., where we're mentioned, and we clip all of that, pull all that down, so that all gets built in. We include quotes. You'll see here on this slide, we had a great quote that came through, actually the evaluation, from A Little Compassion, and so we utilize that in our annual report. So that's just to throw that out there. That's why we're always asking for them, because it's our job to help our donors see how their funds are being used, which means we're really getting to give you shout outs for the great work that you do in the community. We know some of you work with very at-risk populations. And it's not so easy to show necessarily a photo of someone's face because it could put them in danger, right? Or maybe like the photo here on the right, you run soup kitchens and pantries, and it's really hard sometimes to show exactly what that looks like. So I'm giving Claire a shout out here because two of these photos we took from her, and thank you so much for sharing them. Look at that long line of fruits and vegetables, right? I mean, really, think about it. Like, how do you tell people exactly how much stuff you go through, but to get these great long shots or to show people getting meals ready to go out? On the other side, the Read to Grow bookmobile was a grant from a couple of years ago. This is one of my favorite photos to explain. We appreciate high risk, and children are not always easily sent to us in photos because we don't want to put anyone at risk, right? There are ways around that. You can either stage a photo with people from your staff being taken from the back as if they were participating in a program, or in the case of Read to Grow, they had the kids all hold the books up in front of their faces. So it protected their faces, but it also emphasized what their program was. So we want to reiterate to you, we're not asking you to put anyone at risk. We don't want anything that jeopardizes the work that you do. And we appreciate it when you think outside the box of how to show us and the world what you do, while making sure that you are protecting those individuals that you are serving and who need their protection. You'll get the PowerPoint slides. A few more examples of different ways that we have shared some good news. The bottom two boxes on this screen are stories we used in a community report. We appreciated them because they were sent to us as very condensed stories, and we were able to use them in like about a third to about a half a page in our report to the community, and it really clearly stated the impact of grant. We would love to highlight every single grant that comes through. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't, but we also are going back through the stories and the updates that we've received over the last few years, because as I said, we're doing enhancements to our website, and we're using them to build out some more news and updates there to interconnect that way. So we will be posting more and more of those, as well as the social media, and finding ways. And I will tell you the reason we have the events magazine in here. So those of you that live in a footprint where events magazines come through, if you're not connected, and events magazines is through Essex Printing in Essex, but many of the, I think it's up through, like, I want to say East Haddam and Haddam, Killingworth and South. There's a quarterly events magazine for each of your footprints. If you're not familiar with them, I would encourage you to get to know them. Sometimes it's a great way to share a story, but they'll often email us. We do have ads that appear in each one of those on a quarterly basis. So if there's an opening, a small opening for like 350 words, 500 words, they will give us a last minute heads up. And so we often look to see who falls in their footprint, who we've gotten an update from or a quote from, and we try to, craft a really quick, quick shout out for that periodical. So as many of you know, I hope you visited it, and that's where this will be posted. We have a video page on our website, and it's not only where we post videos that we make, but if you send us video links, whether it's the YouTube link or the Vimeo link or the actual video, if you don't have anywhere to host it, we're happy to host it on our YouTube channel, and we will send you the link to it. But we put them out there with stories. So, and recently, we know a lot of people post videos to Facebook, and those are awesome. We love those. We will share those out, but we can't link them onto our video page. So if it's a thank you that you've put together and you're sharing it on Facebook and it's directed at us, we want you to keep doing that. But we may reach out to you and say, are you able to get us the video file separate from the Facebook platform? Because we can't transfer that over to the website. And we will share those as well with donors. So if we have donors, funds that have helped make your grant possible, we always forward that on to them. because they're very thoughtful and they're fun. They don't have to be long. Some of the funnest, cutest ones that we've gotten are just like little 30-second, big, everyone yelling, thank you, and like, you know, doing a big cheer or whatever. We have some older donors that have established funds with us, or who don't get out as much, and it's a great way to give them a smile. We really appreciate that. We love sharing them on our social media and through our e-news as well. So anything goes. If you have an idea, you want to do a thank you, if you want to highlight a program, if you just want to say thank you, they don't have to be long, but we love these little short videos. They're such a good idea, and it's a great way to also show off what you're doing. I touched on this. We do have a YouTube channel where if you don't have a way to host your own videos, and you're doing it for us, and it's a shout out to us, we're happy to upload it and then give you the video. So as a reminder, because this ties in with your evaluation piece, video files are large, right? So if you need to get us a video file, if you're sending it to us, we have to do it via a cloud share platform. That could be maybe your Google Docs. It could be you've already uploaded it to your YouTube channel, which is fine. Just send us the YouTube link. Or it could be by Dropbox or some other way. Do not try to email directly that video file, because it's not getting here. I can tell you that right now. I also want to give you a heads up. If you take an email and try to attach 15 photos to it, and each photo is about 2 meg, it's going to be this huge email. It's not coming through. In this day and age of cybersecurity, we have really tight filters on our email. I have had people in the past, like a week later, they'll send me a separate email saying, "There, did you get the 10 photos I tried to email? I emailed you?" No, I didn't, because it came up to be about 20 meg, and our email system was like, yep, nope, that's not coming through, because we don't know what that is. So cloud sharing and our evaluation platform is really helpful. If you're trying to get a bunch of photos, you can send 1 or 2. But if you are and if you're not sure, you know us, we're happy to help. So if you say, you know, I've got this big file, I'm not sure it can come through, how can we get it to you? Because we have a Dropbox account, and I can actually create an empty folder and give you sharing permission to upload things to it. So if you don't have a file share platform, that's okay. Don't go out and create one just because you're trying to get something to us. Let us know. We will help facilitate that for you. Okay. And like I said, if you have your own YouTube channel, good on you. Let us know. We'll subscribe to follow it, and you can just send us a link from that. We're able to use that. All right. This is very important to us. And so we have incorporated this as a reminder to everyone. Copyright and privacy. I cannot stress to you how important copyright and privacy is, particularly right now in this day and age. So if you're sharing photos with us for us to use, sorry, I didn't turn my phone off, but it should do it in just a second here. If you are sharing photos with us, this is the privacy piece. We need to know for a fact that you have permission from whoever is in your photo that it be used publicly, okay? You don't have to send me all the signed releases. But if it's in your evaluation and you're attaching a bunch of photos, or if you're emailing us a couple of photos, you need to just let us know you have permission to use these photos publicly, okay? And if you need a release to use for your organization, we have a template that we use, because we do encourage everyone to get signed releases so people know their photos are going to be used publicly, right? And that's public-facing media, whether it's websites, social media, PR, press releases you're sending out, whatever it is. If you use stock photos, did you purchase the stock photo, including the licensing that goes with it? In other words, you don't just go out to Google some images and download one because, hey, it looks really good, and I'm not going to figure out where I have to go and get the license to use it, okay? So if you're sharing it with us, we just need to know that you got it from a stock photo site that gives you permission, license to use that photo. The reason being is that if we end up using it again and someone does a search and it pops up, it might pop up in the search for us. So I have to say I did my due diligence that I know I can use this. So it's just we have to all protect ourselves right now, particularly as AI goes out and finds more and more stuff to use, right? So just be thoughtful about that. When sharing stories, articles, and quotes, we know sometimes that you need to tell us a story, but you can't use the full name of a person in the story. That's fine. You can shorten them. You can change them. A single name like Jane, who was a client at Shoreline Soup Kitchens and Pantries, Elizabeth, who's a student at Community Music School. You know, any of those. We know that sometimes names need to be shortened. So we expect that if you send us things. Videos. This is the big thing. A lot of people have got really gung-ho on doing videos, whether it's for us or for yourself, right? And everybody who does photo shows thinks, oh, I'm going to throw some music on this, right? Because everybody wants music in the background. This is where some of the biggest copyright issues come into a play, okay? When you try to upload that to YouTube, if you don't have a license, if it's copyrighted music, YouTube won't let you upload it. I will tell you that right now. But other sharing sites, because people build them internally and they just share them out, don't necessarily do that. And I will tell you the reason this is very much on the forefront. I had an organization a couple of years ago make the most adorable thank you video for us. We couldn't wait to use it. They didn't get the licensing for the music. I couldn't do a single thing with that video. I couldn't upload it. I couldn't share it. I couldn't do anything. They did not have permission to use the music, and I couldn't strip the music out. Okay. There are a lot of free music sites out there for that nonprofits use. We're creating a list of good, safe sites to go to because we utilize a lot of music. If you're going to use music, please don't use a pop. We all love, you know, everybody loves a song by Taylor Swift or everybody loves a song by whomever. But if you don't have the permission to use it, you can't. You're going to jam yourself up. Please don't do that. So you're much better off finding those sites where you can purchase for a small fee a song you love and the license to use it, or if it's instrumental music, free stock music. Or you can maybe reach out to some of your local arts organizations. There are a couple on here, and you never know. Maybe they'll do music for you. See, I'm doing a pitch out there for those of you that are hearing it, right? Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to switch over and talk about the evaluation on some things that have come through recently that we're paying attention to, but I want to see, are there any other questions right now or anything I forgot for those of you that have done this with us before on the PR side of things? It's our job. We're all about sharing your good news. If we share your good news, we're bragging about you, right? We appreciate the thank you to us, but we like bragging about you, but we need your help to do it because you know you have all the great stuff to show off what you're doing. That's our goal. Same thing with the evaluation. I often, you know, we've often seen some articles recently, or we get emails. I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to be doing an evaluation or what you would need it for, but let me know if I need to submit one. You know, evaluation helps us tell the story, and it also helps us convey how funds are used. Donors are very active now. They're very interested in how they're helping make an impact in their community, whether it's through a contribution to a fund through us or a direct contribution to you. They don't necessarily, they like the story, they want the connection, but they're really interested in if they're able to help. And we're all about the idea that every dollar counts. You don't have to, I'm going to borrow our dear friend Sally DeQuilla's statement that she made several years ago when we're doing a radio interview with her. You don't have to be a Warren Buffett to make a difference in your community. Every gift, no matter the size, makes a difference, right? That's what a community foundation is all about. We have 70 some odd funds that were established to participate in this competitive cycle. Some of them are big and some of them are small. Some of them give off a sizable amount. Some of them maybe only give off a couple of $100 a year, but everybody is leveraging, is pooling that money together through the community foundation to help support your work. We have a responsibility to tell those stories, to report back. These people have started funds and turned the decision-making over to the community foundation because they trust our process. They trust our committees, they trust the staff, they know we have processes in place to do the best we can, but they're still taking an avid interest in what difference they've helped make, and they know they're helping to leverage funds, right? So that's our responsibility. The only way we can answer those questions and we can give those reports is by asking you to give us an evaluation, and by filling out the narratives, telling us what's going on in your organization, how you were able to use the funding and the impact it made, okay? So that's the responsibility that we're asking you to report to us. What's the timing? I get this question all the time, okay? When should we do this? What's the timing? How do I do this? So here's the thing. If it's a program, if it has a beginning, middle, and end, you've expended the funds at the end, you can report on how you started the program, what happened during the middle of the program, what the outcomes were. You do it at the end of the program, right? That's a pretty straightforward one. That's what I usually tell people. Those that are getting capacity building, general operating support, those can be a little trickier, right? Because you're ongoing, you're always doing general operating, and you're always building your capacity, and you're always working on your sustainability. So then what we do in that case is I usually ask people whether it's the end of your fiscal year or about 8 to 9 months out from the grant, right? And so often all of you are not eligible because the second half of our process is getting ready to open, right? So you all know you got a fall grant, so the spring's not available. So come the fall, you'll be eligible potentially, possibly, to apply for a grant again. At that point, we often make the announcement that you have evaluations due, right? Either interim or final. So if you're going longer than 12 months and not reporting on your grant, you're going to probably get an email from us saying, so we noticed that your grant is more than a year old and you haven't submitted your evaluation yet. Is something wrong? If it is, it's okay. That happens. Did you run into a little of a hiccup or a glitch or an obstacle you hadn't foreseen? Not a problem. Please let us know. But if you've gone more than a year without submitting your evaluation on your grant and the grant's been expended and you just haven't gotten around to it, that could potentially keep you from applying for another grant until it's completed, because we need to make sure that we're closing the loop so that we have outcomes. We know how it's helping. We need to know, maybe you came across an obstacle you never dreamed of. You figured out how to get around that obstacle. We could utilize that information for another nonprofit that maybe is just now beginning to face that same obstacle. So we do pay attention. That's why we ask those questions. If you do have things that have experienced delays or it's just taking longer to do than you originally imagined, that's okay. It happens. But that's what the interim evaluation or an email to us is, right? The time when you really need to put the brakes on and circle back to us on anything, whether it's submitting evaluations or even using grant funds, is if all of a sudden something you thought your path was going to go straight in front of you, and there is a great big obstacle in front of you you never imagined, and you have to make a severe right, and you're going to head off in a slightly different direction, then get in touch with us right away, because we need to evaluate the whole situation with you and just understand what's going on. But that can be, delays happen, things go wrong, things didn't time out the way you thought. You got a lot busier than you ever imagined, right? Totally get it. Totally get it. So that happens. But that's why we don't have one of those hard deadlines, like all evaluations are due, right? because it all depends on what your grant was for and what happened and whether you were able to finish it. But the grant form is always on, the final one is always available on our website. You can do it at any time. Just remember, if you start it, it's like anything else. You only have 30 days to finish it. It's just like the application. Once you launch it, you have 30 days to complete it. Otherwise, it goes bye-bye because it's all stored on a temporary server. So don't start it now knowing it's not going to be ready for 6 months because what you start, fill in is not going to be there. So it's on our website. As I mentioned to you, we're doing some website enhancements with little updates and facelifts and whatnot, but I will tell you the general framework underneath the nonprofit section may look slightly different, meaning the order of things, but overall, and that should be, we will make a big woohoo announcement in March when it's ready to unveil and they go switch the, from here to here. So you'll know about it. We may, if you go out to start your evaluation, let's say the end of February or early March, and the link does not work, we will put in great big red. Don't panic, come back soon, because what I need to do is at a certain point before they get ready to flip the switch, I need to not have things available anymore because the transition won't be there. Or like it won't be there. So don't panic. I'm just warning this group, it's this one shot, one time only, but for right now, they're all there. None of you should need it for a little while, but maybe you've already completed or getting ready to complete what your grants were for. It's always going to be on the grant evaluation page, and you'll see it here. All grants, regardless of whether you got your funding through the Janvrin application process or the general process, you are all using the general evaluation report. It's the whole thing. Like all of you are using that report. Right above it is the budget to actual summary form. You can download that in Word and fill it out. I really need to stress, this looks a lot like what you've submitted with your application. And so sometimes people think, well, I don't need to fill this out. I'm just nothing changed from the one that went in on my application. So I'll just use that because I already have that done. There is a difference because this one wants to know what you estimated and what was the actual and what was the difference. So I've had people in the past think, oh, I don't have to do that. I'll just do this one that was on my application, and they get a nice little email from me saying, I appreciate you sent this to me again. I already have it. Please fill out the correct one, right? So that is there.
Fair.
Yeah.
Question came through. Would you like one evaluation for a grant for operating support, or would you prefer periodic updates?
That's a great question, and I really appreciate that. And I hadn't really thought about that. One, and here's why, unless there's something outstanding that you're just like, oh my gosh, we can't wait to tell you this. You can send two if you want, or you can send an email with the, oh my gosh. Our goal with the evaluation is not to make a lot of extra work for you. There is a requirement with a grant that you report on it, how it made a difference, send us a story, some quotes, some photos, whatever. But our goal is to not start adding 2, 3, 4, 8 things to your plate over and above what you're already doing. Okay. Now, that's not to say if there is something you really want to shout out and you want us to convey to the committee or the board and the rest of our supporters, because this grant, just all of a sudden, this was a great thing and you're halfway through your fiscal year, send that along. We are always happy to get updates like that, but no, we're not here to say, oh, looks like we're at a 6-month mark and it looks like you're overspending on this line item in your general operating budget, and shame. That's, your business, right? Your business. Yes, we're nosy. I will be the first one to admit I am nosy. I read your 990s. I look at your operating budgets. I check out what's going on. I'm nosy, but that's because I get asked questions, right? And I have to have a sense of not just the narrative of the really great things, But I know you are all very important, and you are all sustainable, and you are all working to make sure that you do the best job you can, and you are able to find all the sources that you need to make sure you do that work. And we're your big rah-rahs. And so, but it's incumbent on us when someone says, do you think they're in good footing? You know, do you get a sense that from an operating, they have a good budget? Yeah, they do, because I've been through it. I go through it with a fine-tooth comb. But it's not my job to say, a 6-month mark, it looks like you're overspending on this line item. Why have you done that? I don't know. You may have had maybe the cost of food exploded and you weren't anticipating it. You're having to play shuffle. It's not my job to second guess you. So I appreciate the question. One time is fine, unless something goes wrong. Sometimes I might hear about it too, and you may hear from me because I may email and say, just checking in. Looks like something, I'm hearing something that might, say you're having some problems. Then we'll check in. As I mentioned, when you're working on the evaluation, it's just like the application. You do have the option to save and finish later. Cannot stress this enough. Please copy that link that pops up. Lori Lodge and Claire, 2 people on separate so many times, and all the informations were the first ones to remind everybody, if you draft your narrative, your evaluation, or you draft your application in Word, copy that link and stick it in the header of your Word document, and it's there. It's there the whole time. You never have to go hunting for it, right? Because the link won't change, even though every time you save and continue later, it's going to pop it up, but it's always the same link. So big shout out to both of them, because boy, that was their big tip on so many of these information sessions, and I really appreciate that. So make sure you copy it, particularly because sometimes there are glitches and emails don't get out in a timely fashion from our website, etc. So, but also remember, you have 30 days from the moment you start with a save and finish later. This is stored on a temporary server. It is a temporary file, and you have 30 days to finish it. Otherwise it disappears and I can't get it back for you, no matter how hard I try. And that has happened. Day 31, I get an email from somebody. I can't find my evaluation. And I always hate having to email back. I am so sorry. There is nothing I can do. I get the question. What's the difference between a programmatic grant and a capacity grant and a general operating grant? I'll give you a hint. Technically, it's all the same, right? Because programs, you need operations money to do them. It's how you talk about them, and if you're looking at a beginning, middle, and end that you want to report. Programmatic grants, you are saying, here's our program. These are the expenses solely affiliated with this program that we have allocated in our budget, whether it's salaries or materials or marketing. This is the number served and the specific goals achieved. That is a programmatic concept. That's fine. We love those. We know that many people, sometimes there's certain cases where we will only grant for very specific programs so that we can see the start, middle, and end of something, right? Capacity and general support tend to be broader in nature, but they're also more difficult to do evaluations for, right? Because you have to speak in general for your work about how our funding helps in your overall work. You can talk about a single program or a couple of programs, and you can give some outcomes, but you have to really think about how you're going to speak in your narrative about that, because it's much, even though everybody thinks those would be much easier, they're actually a little more difficult, because you really have to think about how to tell that story from the inside out. Your evaluation checklist, refer back to your original application. Speak to some of the things that you told us you were going to do in the application. We want to quantify who and how many you served, and we want to quantify the impact. We do want that, but we also want the stories too, because that's the narrative piece is really important. But sometimes it's easier for me to say, oh, when I have to count things up, like this grant or this organization serves X and this one does Y, right? And of course, don't forget your photos and your videos, your news releases, all the great ways that you can tell me a story so that we can then share it back out with everyone else. I think all of you are. We do try to make sure we follow you on social media. Please, we always appreciate if you follow us and help us share things out, share good news out, share one another's good news out. It just helps to build the audience for everyone. And of course, Mary sends her regards. She was very sad not to be with you all today, and she was always appreciates getting to see everyone. If you have any questions or updates, and I should have thrown Abby in here on this page. So Abby, I owe you an apology for that one. All right, I want to know questions, ideas, comments, things I forgot.
I have a question.
Hi, Aaron.
Hi there. Hi. So as somebody who's not great with social media, how, I know your answer is going to say it's fine, but how annoying is it if I was to send you something before I posted it, even if it was like once or twice a week for 3 or 4 weeks?
I am happy if that makes you more comfortable. You are not alone in that. I have gotten emails from other people saying, we're going to put this out and we just want to make sure it sounds okay or it says okay. The only, you know me, I'm happy. We appreciate that. It's very thoughtful of you. It's your social media channel. And we trust you, but if you're concerned that maybe it's not phrased right or it's not going to tag us correctly, we're happy to look at it. Just so you know, on Facebook, particularly if you follow us, it's at Community Foundation MC, and on Instagram and YouTube, it's CFMC_CT. I'm happy to look at those, Aaron. With the caveat that you have to remember that I may not be able to do an immediate turnaround. You can definitely send it to me because I might be sending it to Abby and she may be looking at it for me. And when Mary comes back, she's happy to do it too. We're happy to help in that, but I want to stress it's your social media channel. You don't need our permission to post anything. We'll watch for it. Have a wonderful day. Email if you have questions.